All right, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now, UFC 290 is this Saturday, and I could not be more excited, but I want to talk a little bit about why I think Yair Rodriguez is an extremely dangerous, possibly the most dangerous opponent for Alexander Volkanovski. I will preface, I'm not saying I think that Yair Rodriguez is going to win. I am a massive fan of Alexander Volkanovski. I would probably prefer him to win because I want to see him succeed. I think he's a cool dude, and I love his fight style. He hasn't had a boring fight since I can't remember. But I do think that in terms of his opponents, especially those at featherweight, Yair Rodriguez poses the most danger and is the biggest threat to his title. I'm going to talk about some of that before we get into it. Like and sub, greatly appreciate it. Anyways, first things first, Yair Rodriguez, compared to all of Volkanovski's opponents during his championship reign, he is the only one that has a kicking game. And not just that, it's his largest, the largest part of his game is his kicking game. Everybody else he has faced has been extremely boxing heavy. Brian Ortega and his striking is boxing heavy. Max Holloway, obviously, extremely heavy in the boxing realm. Also, Korean Zombie. You know what I mean? Islam Makhachev was the only guy that he fought who throws kicks on a regular basis, and they are not even close to the level of a Yair Rodriguez. So it's going to be a different range than Volkanovski's used to, because with the opponents who like to box, he can get in a little bit closer because they need to get in a little bit closer to hit him, right? So it allows him to implement his leg kicking game. It allows him to implement his boxing, which is his strongest 2 points of his striking game. Whereas Yair Rodriguez is going to be on the outside, throwing kicks to the body, kicks to the leg, kicks to the head, and it's just something that he hasn't really had to face before. I'm sure he's fought a guy that's good at kicking, but nobody like Yair Rodriguez. So also, Yair Rodriguez uses a ton of lateral movement to stay on the outside, whereas, again, he hasn't really fought a guy like that. Like Max Holloway will use lateral movement, but to get inside. Yair Rodriguez doesn't want to get inside, at least not all of the time. He's going to want to stay on the outside and blast kicks. And something that he has made massive improvements, and we saw earlier in his career him using a lot of flashy techniques, a lot of crazy, like, you know what I mean, traditional martial arts, I guess, kicks, and they weren't necessarily effective all the time. Sometimes they would land, but oftentimes they wouldn't, and he's never really gotten like a crazy fucking knockout by wheel kick or whatever, you know what I mean? Against Josh Emmett, though, we saw that he's really harnessed the fundamentals and he's using them more and more effectively. He was consistently blasting round kicks to the body of Josh Emmett. Very simple kick, one of the first kicks you learn in a kickboxing gym, but he's very explosive, very fast, and he's accurate. And with somebody who's that good at kicking, that's what you want to see. I don't want to see him spinning, rolling around, doing all this crazy shit if it doesn't work, right? I want to see him blasting kicks to the body, and he did that perfectly from a southpaw stance, no less. So he's switching stances to throw that kick, which is beautiful. That's something else that he does a lot, is he switches stances. He's very fluid when he switches stances. You don't see like a 3-point turn. They're all U-turns, back and forth. Now, Volkanovski, in my opinion, needs to, and possibly he's been working on this, countering and really sitting down on his punches, because when Yair Rodriguez makes his entries for boxing attacks, he leaves himself open quite a bit. And we saw Josh Emmett crack him a couple times, and credit to Yair Rodriguez, he's got the fucking chin of a giant, okay? He leaves himself open when he comes into boxing range. And if Volkanovski, who does not traditionally have one-punch KO power, wants to get respect from Yair Rodriguez, he's going to have to sit down on his punches and fucking counter him. And because that'll be when he gets respect, right? Is in the boxing range. He's not going to be blasting Yair Rodriguez with body kicks. That's just not going to work. So I hope that he works, or I hope that he's been working on like unleashing his power as opposed to just kind of touching and outpointing his opponents. We haven't really seen him starch anybody. You know what I mean? Whenever he TKOs anybody or fucks them up, it's accumulative. And then earlier, before he had the belt, a lot of it was ground and pound, which is another reason why I think Yair Rodriguez is so dangerous. When you're fighting a guy like Islam Makhachev, you know that he just wants to grapple you. You know what I mean? He wants to grapple you, he wants to submit you. He does not throw shit with the same kind of fucking vitriol that Yair Rodriguez does when he's on his back or on top. But on his back, he is extremely dangerous. He's very good at getting leverage to throw elbows and hammer fists and things like that from bottom. He hurt Emmett when Emmett was on top of him before he latched up that triangle. His elbows were vicious from the bottom. He did way more damage than Josh Emmett did at any moment on the ground. Volkanovski does have very good top pressure, and we've seen him dominate guys from top position where we would have thought it would have been dangerous to do so, right? Like a Brian Ortega. But again, a Brian Ortega doesn't want to beat you up. He wants to submit you. He's not throwing crazy elbows and crazy hammer fists. He's trying to move his hips and get somewhere he can latch up a triangle or an armbar or something like that. Whereas Yair Rodriguez wants to fucking hurt you all the time. He's mean, dude, okay? And I don't mean like he's a dickhead, but I mean when he's fighting you, it's gonna hurt. He wants to hurt you. You know what I mean? He's a very hard guy to pick out patterns for also. He throws so much shit differently. And it's not like you get a 1-2 and then a body kick. It's like you'll get a body kick, a leg kick, a 2. Like he mixes it up constantly. And because he's always moving, it's hard to get a read on him. Now, I'm sure Joe Lopez is a brilliant fucking mind, and as is Volkanovski, so I'm sure that they've been able to pick out some things. But I'd feel pretty confident in saying that Yair Rodriguez, is a lot harder to pick out patterns on than like a Max Holloway or a Brian Ortega or a Korean Zombie or any of these guys. We saw moments where Islam Makhachev was able to kind of get the better of the striking against Alexander Volkanovski. Now, to be fair, Volkanovski was probably very concerned with the threat of the takedown, the threat of the grappling. So perhaps his striking was a little bit hindered because we've seen him put on fucking masterclasses against guys that, talking about pure striking, you would think are better than Islam Makhachev. But it's a different style of striking too, man. Like, Islam's very fundamental in everything that he does. And while Yair Rodriguez might be throwing fundamental kicks, he's not throwing them from a fundamental, he's not standing perfectly bladed, hands up, throwing his kicks. He's moving around blast. It's very, very different, okay? He's so fucking explosive and fast, too, that this is, literally, dude, Volkanovski has not fought a single fucking guy like this. The way that he fights is very... Yair Rodriguez does not let you fight at your fucking pace. You know what I mean? He's fighting at whatever fucking pace. It don't matter. But he's not letting you dictate the pace. And we've seen that he can go 5 rounds because we watched him fight against Max Holloway, and he didn't really gas, and he had a ton of moments in that fight. You know what I mean? That was a very, very, very close fight. So, and it was a war. You know what I mean? So if he's going to gas in a 5-round fight, that would have been it. And he didn't. So I'm not necessarily worried about him gassing. We know Volk won't gas, ever. Volkanovski's got the best cardio I've ever seen in the featherweight division. You know what I mean? He's a fucking savage. And if you look at, resumes and shit like that, you would almost have to lean Volkanovski. But the way, it's just the styles make fights cliche. That's what it is. Yair Rodriguez does not fight like any guy he's ever fought. And again, Max Holloway, boxing heavy. Korean Zombie, boxing heavy. Brian Ortega, boxing heavy. Nobody throws kicks like Yair Rodriguez does. Nobody throws them with the same speed. Nobody throws them with the same... Dude, he grimaces every time he fucking throws a shot. Do you know what I mean? And if he's fighting smart, he'll keep it at that range. Because there were moments again in the Josh Emmett fight where he would go in to land a boxing combination and he would get tagged. And to be fair to him, man, that doesn't fucking deter him. He's a very hard guy to get respect from also. He's not afraid of you. And, man, this is a tough one for Volk. I still don't know who I'm going to pick necessarily. I feel like I would almost have to lean Volk just because it's, the safe pick. Do you know what I mean? But if there's anybody in the featherweight division that could fucking head kick Volkanovski and we see the craziest upset of all time, it's Yair Rodriguez. And... man, I'm excited for this fight. I can't fucking wait. This is the first, you know what I mean? The last pay-per-view was all right. it was all right. And it was cool that it was in Canada, but it wasn't like a big pay-per-view feel. This one is a big pay-per-view feel. And the next one's a big pay-per-view feel. Jesus fuck. We've got crazy cards coming up. This fight's going to be phenomenal. The problem I have is when I'm visualizing this fight, I don't see a way in which Volkanovski finishes him. Because Alexander Volkanovski, again, he doesn't traditionally have like one punch KO power. You know what I mean? Korean Zombie was a referee stopped it while standing at the beginning of a round, basically, because Korean Zombie had taken such a fucking beating. Max Holloway, he never knocked him down, which nobody does, so okay. Brian Ortega, most of the damage was done on the ground. Well, not most, but he did a lot of damage on the ground, right? After Brian Ortega was tired and beaten up. But he never, like, you never thought he was about to knock him out. You know what I mean? Whereas, and on the ground, I can't see him finishing him either. I'm sorry, I'm kind of thinking of this shit off the bat. I don't have necessarily everything written down, but I can't see Volk being able to finish him on the ground. Like, Yair is fucking dangerous, dude. He is the one that injured Brian Ortega. He does not get enough credit for that, and it drives me crazy. Brian Ortega was injured because of what Yair Rodriguez did. Yair Rodriguez is so fucking badass and angry and mean. He's throwing up subs against a fucking black belt who's known for subbing guys, whereas Yair Rodriguez, when he was explaining his fucking submission on Josh Emmett, he goes, yeah, I just learned that where you take the foot and you lock it into the crook of the knee. And I was thinking, like, what, you just learned that? Do you know what I mean? You just learned how to properly latch up a triangle. That blew my mind. I thought, what the fuck, dude? You've been fighting forever. Like, I've known how to do that since I was fucking 12. Do you know what I mean? But it doesn't matter because he was able to implement it like that. He just learned it. It's fucking crazy, dude. Crazy. You know, and if Volk gets him on the ground, first of all, he's going to have to, like, catch a kick or do something, because just shooting on Yair Rodriguez is going to be a problem. He's nasty in the clinch also, so it's not like they're not going to be gimme takedowns. You know what I mean? And he'll have to put himself in danger to get the fight there in the first place. And then once you get there, you immediately have to watch the top of your head, your forehead, the fucking side of your head. Some guys don't know how to throw strikes from bottom. But then you see the longer guys that are a bit skinnier in their frame, like Kevin Holland, be able to get a ton of leverage on those shots. They're like whipping them. And Yair's very good at that. So I'm having a hard time visualizing and coming up with a scenario where I see Volkanovski finishing him. And even winning, like, fuck, man, this is crazy to say, but it's hard to imagine how he's going to win rounds, just because Volkanovski does rely on being sort of in that mid-range to do his damage. You know what I mean? He's got a way longer arms reach than most people think, but it's just not, he's not like fighting behind a jab, keeping you at range, and especially not against a guy who kicks like Yair Rodriguez does. So it's fucking tough one, man. I'm having a hard time picking this fight because, as I said, I'm a massive Volk fan. He's, in my opinion, the greatest featherweight of all time, and it's hard to imagine him losing, especially after, or losing at featherweight, I should say, especially after seeing how he performed at lightweight against Islam Makhachev, when you see these other guys fucking fold and get finished in this, you know what I mean, to Islam. And then when you see what Max Holloway does to an up-and-comer like Arnold Allen, or you see what Max Holloway does to fucking anybody that isn't Alexander Volkanovski. Do you know what I mean? But then at the same time, when you're thinking about the styles and you're trying to visualize who's going to be throwing what, who's going to be doing, like, it's hard to picture him hurting Yair. It's hard to picture him taking Yair down and smashing him. It's hard. Like, it's just, this is a tough one. And I can't fucking wait, dude. Like and subscribe. Greatly appreciate it. See you at the next one. Bye-bye.